Hi everyone, I thought I'd take this opportunity to show a few of my very small trees. Got 3 trees on this display. The first one is a Carokia, Cotoneaster some people call it. Very small leaves, nice small red berries at the moment. I've had this tree for about 4 or 5 years, just growing in a very tiny pot. Doesn't change much. Second tree is a little black pine. This guy I've had for also about 5 or 6 years, and I candle pruned this tree very late in the season, and this achieves a very short needle, although it does stress the tree a little bit to do it as late as I do. I candle prune this at probably about Christmas Day rather than mid-December, so a couple of weeks later than all my other black pines. The third tree is a little box. This guy's really slow to grow and doesn't change much. I've had this for a long time, and just a nice little tree, and I think the 3 of them just sit nicely together on this stand. I keep this in my workplace and enjoy it through the day at work. Here I have a couple of more minis. Firstly, a black pine. This one I've had for a long time now. I picked it up at the Bonsai Northwest sale day back in the days when they had a show at the Yarraville Club. It's a nice little tree, and probably been in my possession for about 12 years. I've had a lot of joy out of this tree. It doesn't take a lot of work, but it's always a nice little tree to show. The second one is a Chinese elm. Bark is starting to cork up nicely, and only about 10 inches high, and it's pretty much set in its structure now. Tree I'm quite happy with. Hi, a couple more minis. The first of which is a crab apple. Still hanging on to one apple from last season. The leaves are starting to fall. A nice little stand. I don't get to show very often, but I think it sits nicely on that stand. The second tree is again another black pine. This one was created through air layering, one of Peter Fuster's creations. I've had it now for probably about 8 years. Again, gives me a lot of joy to grow these little black pines. I just wanted to take the opportunity to show my purple leaf birch, although this time of year in autumn colour. There's lots of gold and yellow in the tree, and just makes it look especially attractive this time of year. It's got 5 trunks in this clump, a couple of them very small on the left, and some taller trunks in the middle and on the right. I like to keep the foliage on this tree very sparse. It makes it look a bit delicate and feminine, which just gives a nice feel to the tree. There's another tree that's showing a lot of autumn colour, a Manchurian pear. It's about 10 or 15 years old. A couple of weeks ago it was very dark green. Now everything's turned red quite suddenly. The bark on the trunk is corking up nicely, showing the age. Another tree I've got is a Juniper squamata raft. This tree would be about 25 years old, I'd say. The main trunk is laying flat on the surface of the soil, and there's several upright trunks coming off of that, making up the composition. I'll try and get in closer and show you the interior of the tree a bit. And that's how it's looking from the front.
This group is a coastal tea tree from the Mornington Peninsula, Leptospermum. It was tube stock in 2013. I grew it in separate pots to encourage different sized trunks. The small outside trees were grown from cuttings in 2015. It needs regular pruning and fertilising, and it is susceptible to scale, which has to be sprayed.
This is a Japanese maple bonsai that I've had for a very short time actually. It was stock grown, and I only pretty much repotted that into a nice semi-cascade pot. It's a very natural looking Japanese Japanese maple, which is starting to colour up really well in this weather. I don't want to spin it around too much because it's actually got a very large, you can see that very large side branch. See how pretty that is, and it's got the contrasting colours where it's a bit red here, still green there, and it's just the exposure to the sun is a little bit different. More sun, I think more red, so you can see how the apex is much redder here and much more interesting in colour. Lovely leaves and lovely foliage. I just want to continue growing it in a natural looking style, not too a Japanese contorted Japanese black pine style, but very natural. Really not doing too much, not too much wire. Trying to maybe fill out a little bit more, bit bigger here, and maybe a bit more rounder, and fill out this branch in here, just to look more as a deciduous tree.
Hello everyone. This is something I've had around my backyard for a long time. It's a Scots pine, Pinus sylvestris. It's a European native, and it lends itself quite well to bonsai. The needles are a bit shorter than the Japanese black or red pines, and they reduce in size fairly well. You don't see many of them around the nurseries, but they do make a nice bonsai. I purchased this way back in the 80s, about mid to late 80s, and it was from the Bundura plant farm. That was when the plant farm was in its original location. I think there's a shopping centre there now. But anyway, it wasn't that long after Christmas, and this was the only pine there, and it was crooked and didn't have many branches. So obviously it was a Christmas tree reject. And who wants a bent Christmas tree with no branches? So I decided to give it a go as bonsai. It was about 6 foot tall, about 1.5 or 6 metres, and I cut it down in the car park, which was pretty funny. Took a fair bit off it, and a little bit later on I did a bit of a demo and a talk on this tree at one of our club meeting nights, but that would have been in the later 90s. I think we were at Francis Street in Yarraville about that time, and you should see a photo of that night and you'll be able to see the tree. There wasn't much of it, pretty scrawny. But anyway, I was giving it a go. Over the years I've grafted quite a few branches and bits and pieces on it to try and fill the gaps. A lot of it has been approach grafted from the same tree, and it's pretty heavy, of course, and that's why it's a permanent feature in the backyard. The pot, there's nothing to rave about, it serves the purpose. And the little trolley I knocked up from some Merbu timber, put some wheels on the bottom, and it's able to be rolled around and rotated, and just makes it a bit easier. So I'll give you a bit of a tour of the tree. There's still some guy wires on here, and you'll see the wires and the corks there. I just want to maintain it as a bonsai rather than just a pot plant. Some of the larger branches tend to want to rise up a little over the years, and this point here, this is where it was cut down to. There's still a scar there, but that's fine, you can't see that. That's at the back. And the branch that I brought up to continue the tree and the apex has thickened up quite well, so the transition now is pretty good. A little bit of wiring as it grows, and of course these can't be treated like we do the Japanese black pines and red pines. They're only a single flush variety, so you can't take those current year's growth shoots out. All you can do is shorten them and shape it from there. So it's a tree that's come along quite well, and it'll continue to stay home and serve the purpose. That's my Scots pine.